Hello, hi, and welcome to another episode of The Emma Gunn Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Although, how rude. That's where we are today as I film this little update for you. The update being my weight loss challenge, my decision to lose 10 pounds, which then got tweaked to my decision to lose body fat and gain lean muscle, which could actually mean weight gain. But with the emphasis on creating a calorie deficit, strength training, and also increasing my protein intake and tweaking my diet slightly so that I can effect some physiological changes, which I hope will make me feel better. Now, the reason why I say how rude is because, and I kind of knew this was coming. Because I think it's a very sort of knee-jerk, thoughtless observation. But somebody on Instagram, where I've been sharing a lot of this content to, this sort of like little bit more updatey things, who by the looks of it doesn't follow me, has a pictureless account, and perhaps lacks the ability to see nuance, has just accused me of being anorexic, essentially saying you have swapped a binge eating disorder for a restrictive eating disorder. And I reject that so resolutely, and I want to explain why. But with all of that said, I can kind of see why that is a conclusion that some people will come to. I will come on to why I reject it, but the reason why I can see why people can jump to that conclusion when they don't know. Also, let's not diagnose people with disorders of any type publicly. Maybe think these things. Thoughts, not tweets, people. Thoughts, not tweets. But essentially, a lot of the tactics and strategies that I have used with great success to stop yo-yo dieting, to stop binge eating, I am aware, to my friends who have been in a more restrictive eating pattern that has, why am I mincing my words, who have been anorexic in the past. I can see them bristle and they kind of go, because my positive coping strategy around food, which stops me binge eating, can sound like what they used to do when they were restrictive or when they were in the grips of an eating disorder. And yet the two things are entirely different. And I think I spoke about this on an episode a little while ago, in that it's all about perception. It's all about framing things. And I think I used the analogy of alcohol. You can see two people sitting at a bar, each with a glass of whiskey in front of them. For one person, that is drinking that whiskey is going to get them off the wagon, which is going to lead to who knows what. The other person, that might be the only strong drink they have that year, but it looks the same, but it obviously is very different. It depends on the individual. And I think that's the piece that this observer is missing here. I feel so much better than I did when I was in the grips of binge eating and actually going through periods of massive restriction and then massive overeating. I feel so much better than I did then because I am not governed by constantly thinking about what I am going to eat or what I am not eating or what I want to eat. Don't get me wrong. There's an element of that because as I've said before, I am in recovery and recovery is not linear. But I do not believe that the way that I am now could in any way, shape or form be described as being on a par with how I felt in the past, where I felt hopeless, where I felt unhealthy, where I have felt at a complete sort of powerless against these really strong urges to eat and eat really quite revolting food. I can look at revolting food now. When I say revolting, I mean just stuff that's not really very good at you, really good for you. So as I think I've said before, I would crave cake, custard and cream. In moderation, fine, but not when it's an entire Victoria sponge, a bucket of custard and a squirty bottle of squirty cream. That's not going to do anybody any good. And giving into that in the way that I used to, where it was almost in a daze, where I really felt like I had no control over it, just sort of happened. And then afterwards you'd be like, oh my God, I am so free from those sorts of behaviors. And putting the brakes on that, realizing those urges, seeing those thoughts, being able to go, oh, that's not real, full stop, and get on with my life is the best thing I have ever been able to achieve, genuinely. So when someone says, I think you're now I think you now have a restrictive eating disorder. I just think you don't know what you're talking about. You really don't know what you're talking about. I understand if you were looking at it dispassionately and you looked at the mechanisms, but everything that I have shared has been about, I am a woman in her late 40s who wants to make good, healthy choices, which means increasing my lean muscle and losing body fat. How is that disordered? How is it disordered or in any way unhelpful to say, I am a woman of a certain age who is going to hit perimenopause, and I know that by making these lifestyle choices now, I will potentially be able to navigate that change, those hormonal changes, with greater ease. How is that disordered? How is eating 100 grams of protein a day in order to fuel my muscles, to build muscles, how is that disordered? How is that a negative? How is choosing to have lower fat to be able to lose body fat, which has been known, like body fat percentage and hormonal, the way that hormones, what's the word that I'm looking for? The way that hormones function in the body, an increased body fat is proven to not be incredibly helpful there. So making a conscious decision to reduce my body fat, how on earth could that be considered disordered? The way that I'm doing this is not by not eating. The way I am doing it is by actually eating quite a lot, fueling myself. And I don't know, maybe it's the intermittent fasting. I don't know. I'll tell you what it was. And like I said, I kind of knew this was coming because I think that it is as I've said, dispassionate. When you look at it, you can think that I have had friends who have struggled with restrictive eating disorders in the past who have looked at me and said, are you sure you're okay? Thinking that the pendulum has swung from one way to the other. And we have both agreed, actually, it is just my methods away from what I was doing doesn't mean, just because they look similar to the things that got you towards where you were, doesn't mean I'm going to end up there too. And I also think this is something that I have been doing in varying degrees since 2019. I think if this was a restrictive eating disorder, there would be signs, there would be issues, something would have been flagged, but it has not. So this is like a 6-year project. So again, strongly reject this idea that I am engaging in eating disorder or restrictive eating behaviors, because I don't believe that I am. And I think with everything else that I'm presenting to you, the strength training, the fact that I'm training, I'm not on the running machine, running. I am strength training to build muscle, which could increase my body mass. So I just think it's quite silly and it's quite rude, and it's incredibly unhelpful as well when you're making these positive changes. I think it's very unhealthy for someone to look at positive changes and say, I don't like the look of those. I also think that there's this idea that if you are making changes and you are having success with it, there will always be a corner of the internet, or if we're talking in real life, there'll always be a smattering of people that you work with or friends or whatever who'll be like, and obviously when you're on social media, you might be a little bit more aware of it. But sometimes when someone's doing things and having success, there is a sort of, people want to kind of pull you down. And maybe there's an element of that going on. I don't know. I'm not going to think about it too much, but I just sort of read the comment and thought, God, you're an idiot and you're rude. And also, you don't know me. How dare you? If my mother pulled me to one side and said, Emma, we need to have a conversation, we're worried about this, then I would pay attention. But no, I don't think that. Also, if you'd seen me at the barbecue on the Easter weekend, you'd know that there were no restrictive eating disorder issues here. So I would like to put that to bed. But also, I think if one person is bold enough to say it, maybe there are people watching or people listening who have thought it. And so maybe it's worth addressing. Weigh in with your thoughts here. But I personally don't believe I have ever at any point during any of my content around my personal issues with weight and how I've chosen to lose weight and the reasons why I've chosen to lose weight, I don't think I've ever shared anything that would be cause for concern. I have too many friends who are nutritionists and trainers, and I also have friends who are very honest with me. I have too many of those people in my life who I think would be like, red flag, Emma, I think we need to have a sit down. No one has done that. Everybody has been incredibly supportive. So it could just be a bad corner of the internet, as they say, one bad apple. But sometimes it's worth addressing these things. But maybe you can weigh in with your thoughts. But maybe you've been in that position where you start to make positive changes and people react to you in a way that you find surprising. This, to me, honestly, felt like a very surprising response, but surprising, but not unexpected. And also just disappointing. Okay, so that's that done. But let's talk about, I put up a social media post on Instagram the other day talking about, listen, I'm at £7. So I set myself a £10 weight loss and I hit £7 weight loss after Easter bank holiday. So I have a feeling it's going to up again, because that's definitely an anomaly, because you should have seen me at my friend's barbecue. I did not hold back. But anyway, but you shouldn't, nor should you when you are with friends and having fun. But I did a post just saying, look, this is where I'm at, and these are the 3 things that I have been doing. And I asked followers to comment underneath on the things that they wanted to see me do from that point forward. And I'll tell you what they said. But first of all, I'll say that the 3 pillars that really this has been resting on is, first of all, intermittent fasting. Again, maybe this is the thing that makes people go, ooh, because a couple of people who have also had binge eating disorder or are in recovery from binge eating disorder have said that to them that seems really worrying, because that's the kind of behavior that would make them binge. Now, as I said before, I do think these things are extremely individual, extremely personal, and unique to whoever it is. For me, intermittent fasting turns off that food noise in a way that I find very helpful. So while I understand that sort of concern, I think for me, actually, it makes things a lot easier. It makes me feel a lot less governed by, or like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm far less likely to break, if you like, and eat something that I'm actually not hungry for. So for me, that intermittent fasting has been great. I usually am somewhere between 16 and 18 hours of fasting, and that's because, particularly when I'm working from home, I always have an early supper and then I just get on with my evening. So that's how it works. So that's that first pillar. The second pillar is the strength training. And the strength training, again, I've been working out regularly for years, and I have strength trained throughout all of that. But I switched things up and went more full body because I wanted something a bit more up tempo, like high heart rate kind of vibes. And in order to achieve this reduction in body fat and increase in muscle mass, I am being very mindful to strength train. So I'm doing 5 strength training sessions a week, very body part specific. So even though that's quite a lot of working out, each body part gets plenty of time to rest and recover between workouts, which is vital. And I am very much enjoying feeling stronger. I bought another set of dumbbells. I had 3, 5 and 10 kilogram dumbbells. And the jump from 5 to 10 was silly. And I bought a pair of 8 kilogram dumbbells. And my goodness, I am now feeling quite how much I can push certain exercises or dial back from the ones that I just wasn't quite ready to move up to the 10s with. And it makes me feel that I'm actually doing the iron program with Caroline Gervin again. And it's just, it's feeling so much more fluid. It's feeling so much more, it's still challenging, but it's brilliant. I just love the fact that I've got those weights now that I'm competent with up to a point, but I really still have to push to get through some of those final reps, which is amazing. So the strength training is vital. And the strength training is that thing that's really helping me build that muscle. And then in support of that, there's my diet. So my diet has gone from being high protein. It's been high protein for a long time, but I am very much focusing on that high protein. All you have to do is watch a couple of clips from Dr. Gabrielle Lyon to be convinced as to why you should eat a lot of protein. But I aim for over 100 grams a day. But the switch that I've made is that I have really lowered my fat intake. And that, I think, is the thing that has made the difference. Now, there are some good things and some bad things about that, because one of the things that I have noticed in the last couple of weeks especially, I was talking to a friend about this on the phone last night. I feel like I've had that whoosh effect in the last week, in the sense of my weight was pretty much the same for about 15 days. And then all of a sudden it flipped. And that is sort of colloquially called the whoosh effect. But last weekend, I was freezing. I was really cold, and I was chatting to a couple of friends. They were like, "Yeah, that can be one of the things that goes hand in hand." My body temperature was running quite low, which was a little bit surprising. It feels absolutely fine now, but it's just one of those little things. And I remember watching a video on YouTube ages ago with someone talking about the things that people don't tell you when you're losing weight. And one of them is you run so cold. And I thought, okay, that's normal. But anyway, the sort of fourth thing that I've never really talked about, and I haven't mentioned this on Instagram yet, is the importance of sleep and rest and recovery. So I've already said about with the strength training, because I'm being very body part specific. So there will be glutes and hamstrings days, there will be quad days, there will be chest and back days, arms, biceps and tricep days. There will be all broken up. Each body part gets enough time. Nothing is back to back to be able to rest. But I have been incredibly mindful to make sure that I'm sleeping well and not scrimping on my sleep. So that means going to bed early. I've installed quite a strict bedtime routine. So I'm in bed. I will sometimes get some of the Fushi like muscle relaxing oil and just rub those into my legs, because it's always my legs where I feel kind of DOMS. But I rub that into my legs, read and put my drowsy sleep mask on and try not to take that off until my alarm goes off. And it's something I've been working quite hard on because I'm quite a fitful sleeper. I can sometimes wake up in the middle of the night, put Bravo on and listen to or watch Real Housewives of Somewhere or Other with my eyes closed. And if you know, you know. Anyway, so sleep, rest and recovery is also really important. And again, that also comes down to fueling myself properly. So and supplements. So I've been taking magnesium for a really long time. I have a subscription with Wild Nutrition. And with that subscription, I have omegas, I have a women's multivitamin, which also caters for hormonal health, and I have magnesium. So I make sure that I take my magnesium, and I always have a mint tea whilst I'm in bed. I go to bed with a wind down with a mint tea whilst I'm reading, which is absolutely fantastic. But those are kind of the pillars, the fourth one being that sleep, rest and recovery that I hadn't talked about yet. But in response to that video, I said, look, this is where I'm at. What would you like to see more of from me? And I was with a really good friend this morning, had coffee with a good friend who we both were magazine beauty editors at the same time. And we were talking about content. And I was saying how this is a real switch up for me, the fact that I'm talking about weight loss, and I'm not a qualified nutritionist, I'm not a qualified personal trainer, so I do so with caution, but it's very much anecdotal, but I'm able to pull in from experts. As you know, if you've listened to the podcast previously, people like Emma Story-Gordon, people like Chloe Madeley have come on and shared their expertise. Many more as well, like Eve Kalinick and Ian Marber and Megan Rossi, like Dr. Megan Rossi, by the way, I hasten to add. So it's all, there's tons of content on the podcast with these sorts of experts about nutrition and how to follow all of these things. And so I'm very lucky to have that bank to be able to pull into my content when I'm talking about things like this. But the main thing that came back, the main feedback from everybody underneath that post was, please could you do meal plans? Please could you show what you eat? And look, I've been doing recipes, high protein recipes on my Instagram for a little while. I have not been consistent with them. They are something that I would like to do more because I just really enjoy cooking. And I also bought some spurtles. If you don't know what a spurtle is, Google it, because I thought it was I kept seeing these cooking videos online, and especially things that were like Italian, and they were using these special wooden sort of cooking oars, tiny little cooking oars. And I thought, well, that must be some traditional Italian cooking wand situation, cooking oar, wooden cooking oar. Anyway, it turns out I think they're Scottish and they're called spurtles. So I bought a set and changed my life, as all Amazon purchases do for the first 5 days. But anyway, so I will be doing some more of those, but it would be very interesting to know if that's what you would like to see. I share every day on my Instagram stories the link to the workout that I've just done. I know that hundreds of people click through on those workouts and save them. So I know that's really helpful. But when I was talking with my friend earlier today about Editorial, she said, have you got a big editorial plan about what you'll do here and what you'll do there? And I had to say, no, I go on what people are saying to me. And actually what I'm going to sit down and do, which is why this podcast is a little bit late this week, because I know I need to sit down and actually make a plan about, right, what am I talking about? With what frequency? Where does this live? Because there's stuff that's right for for the podcast. There's stuff that's right for Substack, and there's stuff that's right for Instagram. So I need to take a little bit of a gap not a gap. I mean, you'll still see me on Instagram, especially, but I just need to take some time over the next couple of days to really think about that content and where it lives. And as I've said many, many times before, I obviously want to make that content that you'll engage with, you'll watch, you'll listen to, you'll save, you'll watch time and time again, you'll share. I mean, that's the most important thing, if you like it enough to share it. So if there's anything that you think you would like to see from me, basically a lot of the answers on that, what would you like to see more of, are just like more so it's like, but what would you like? So would you like a 60-second video on these are the 3 things I love about intermittent fasting, or would you like a long read on Substack, which is like, this is how it's felt for 7 weeks whilst trying to lose weight, this was my most frustrating week, this is my worst workout? Like, how much color and detail, how much forensic information would you like? How granular would you like it to be? Because obviously I have it all up here, but I'm just not necessarily aware of what you guys really want to hear and see. And I know this has been a big turn for a lot of people who've been here for a while. The fact that the show is about me now and it's not me interviewing people. I think we've gone over that time and time again about why it's a sort of fool's errand now to get people on. Everybody wants to change your life. Everybody wants you to buy their book, and everybody thinks that they know the best way to make you a millionaire. No one knows. Everyone just has to figure out their own life. Everyone just has to have their own journey, and we've got to stop looking at other people's journeys and trying to emulate them. That's the thing that's another thing for another time. Anyway, Hannah Betts wrote a really brilliant piece in The Telegraph, I believe, about the sort of rise of the guru. If I can find it might be behind a paywall though. If I can find it, I'll link it and put it in the show notes. I think she shared it on her Substack as well, but she did quote me in that. So you might be interested in my thoughts, having interviewed so many gurus over the years on the podcast, and in some cases having deep regret about having done so. But anyway, let's move on. So it might be a bit of a turn that it's me all the time, and also the fact that the subject matter is this. But I think if you have been here for a while, if you have been on this journey with me on the podcast, which was 9 last week, then you will know that I'm trying very hard to hopefully share my journey in a way that's useful for you. I remember when I first started, I was really open about the fact this is me. I'm in therapy at the moment. Like, things aren't great, and I told you about what you can expect from a therapy session, what you can expect from your first therapy session, or like, I think after I've been doing it for about 6 months, I said, this is the journey, that the sort of roller coaster of therapy that I wasn't expecting. The fact that it gets a lot worse before it gets better. When you start unpacking everything, it's like cleaning out a bedroom or cleaning out a drawer. You make a hell of a lot of mess. And the same is true with your emotions. You make a hell of a lot of mess before you can begin to put things into pile and put them back in with some order and discard what you don't need anymore. And I've spoken about that. And so that's what I'm trying to do with this weight loss stuff, because it's not just weight loss, and weight loss challenge is a bit of a reductive thing to describe it as. But this is about women making positive, healthy decisions that aren't based just on aesthetic, that aren't based just on fitting into a certain size. These are about making lifestyle changes that will make you stronger and feel better. And I stand by that, which is why the comments that was disappointing, not unexpected, not surprising, or whatever it was, whatever I said, it deserves a response, because if I have to repeat myself, or if I have to explain where I'm coming from so that it is clear, then I don't mind doing it again, because this is genuinely about people being stronger and healthier and making the choices. Look, it's like an investment. You don't know what's going to happen with the market. This is an investment in my health, but I don't know what's going to happen. But all I can do is make what I think are the best choices now, and that's what I'm doing. And I was watching, what's the name of the doctor? A lovely follower suggested her to me, but she was talking about bone health and how women, especially from all of the dieting, especially now with Ozempic and the way people are losing muscle mass and bone mass, we have to really be mindful of the fact that we need our bones to be strong as much as our muscles and our hearts and all of those sorts of things. So these are all, everything here, the health, the diet, the weight training, the strength training, that every single thing is with a long-term view to hopefully putting yourself in really good stead. So that's where this is coming from. And for that reason, if you have, even if it's just, do you know what, Emma, I really like a 30-second video. If you're going to talk about muscle, Matt, or if you're going to talk about gaining muscle, I'm probably not going to watch a 5-minute video, but if it's a 30-second video, I'm in. That kind of detail and data is really helpful for me. So if you are so inclined, which I know you're all really lovely, excellent people, then please email me at the office, not the office, office@emmaguns.com. You can DM me on Instagram where I'm at emmaguns. You can, if you're following my Substack, let's go into the chat there. I've been terrible with the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm just doing that. But if you are over on Substack, start a conversation in the community chat, that's what it's called. What else have I done? I'm sure there's another thing. But all of the things, basically everything, any way that you can get in touch with me will be in the show notes, will be underneath this video. And I would just really, really love to hear from you, because this has to be useful, not just for me, but for you, because otherwise what's the point? So let me know. It would be an absolute pleasure to have a conversation with you, whether it's email, DM, comment under the video, to really get a sense of what would be useful, because I would like to be able to bring expertise to the podcast, bring expertise to my Substack in a way that isn't bamboozling. Because I will say this, I have interviewed a lot of experts in my time. And as much as I love the podcast for long form format, I think actually sometimes those sort of uninterrupted monologues from experts, and the feedback I've been getting from people a lot about this is that you get to the end of it and you go, oh, but how does that relate to what I thought I knew before? And it can sometimes add a layer of confusion rather than a layer of enlightenment to the conversation. So maybe with the experts, for the short term at least, it will be about featuring them on Substack, where we can kind of edit things down, go back and ask a few more questions, so that it's not just so like, huh? Because I'm sure you watch other podcast clips where a doctor or an expert says something that seems so like, well, that's going to change everything. But then when you take a beat, you're like, but that, what is that? How does that work in relation to X, Y, and Z? So I think it's on me to bring you experts in a way that is digestible, and maybe I do the deciphering for you by writing it, because hey, journalist here, it's what I've done for a long time. So let me know what you would like, who you would like to hear from, whether you like 30 seconds, 5 minutes, whether you like an hour, whether you like video, whether you like audio. Just let me know. I would be so, so grateful. And maybe I'll do an Instagram story where we ask the same question, and we'll get some feedback online as well, on Instagram as well, just so we've got a mix of places from where this insight has come from. But on that note, I will go see, I've got my pad here if you're watching on YouTube. Basically, it will mean nothing to you, but this is my narrow-lined writing pad, because I work better on narrow-lined. Don't know why, can't tell you. Wide line just seems a little bit too wasteful. Narrow lined, I can get on with. So I'm going to sit down and really think about an editorial plan for this. But if there are any other sort of parts of it, like it's not just weight loss, it's not just exercise, it's not just food. Like if there are any other things, whether it's fashion, whether it's like, well, how do you dress yourself? I had a brilliant message in the community chat on Substack the other day saying, I've lost a lot of weight. I have no idea how to dress myself. Any tips? And I thought that was so honest and so brilliant and brave, because actually I bought way too many, I bought way too many clothes when I first lost weight that I had no business wearing. I think I was a podium dancer, but it was just because they did up or they fit. So I kind of but they all went on Vinted, so it doesn't matter. But anything like that you want me to include, use all of the information or one of the bits of information. You can email me on all platforms, but just get in touch. Let me know what you want to hear. It'd be such a treat and an honor to hear from you, because you always have the best ideas. You always help me inform this show. So let's try and do it again this time. That would be so amazing. Anyway, right, I'm going to let you go. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you on the next one.